We are Florida Gas. My name is Otto. The purpose of this video today is to give you a little more knowledge or explanation of what torches in our industry is. In our industry, we have two types of torches, and that's what we're going to try to explain today. Is one of our torches that we mostly have is what we call a combination torch. A combination torch is usually made of two parts. So we have a handle, okay, that transports our gas from point A to point B. To our handle, we could put a cutting attachment, making our torch a cutting torch, okay? So we could take our cutting attachment off, and now we could apply a welding tip. So making our torch now a welding torch. Now we could take a welding tip off, and we could apply a heating tip. That makes our torch a heating torch. So by having this type of torch, we basically have what we call a combination torch. And pretty much these torches are available in any industry. They're used in mechanic shops, body shops, and usually mostly any shops that want to do more than one thing with a torch. But what we have, our next type of torch that we have is what we call a cutting torch. A cutting torch usually going to be strictly for cutting. Cutting torches are usually from 21 inches, 48 inches, up to 60 inches. It depends on the brand that you get. So what I want to get to you today is that what is a torch? Basically a torch, we know we got two types of torches, but a torch is basically what we call a mixer. A mixer is made to what? To mix two things together. In this case, when we use a torch, we're using a fuel and we're using oxygen. One of the most common torches in the industry is a Victor. Victor is known to be a what? A tube mix torch. So when we look at a torch in our industry, we want to know that this torch has two tubes, but inside the bottom tube, you have what we call a mixer that mixes your oxygen and your fuel so we could get a neutral flame. When we get our neutral flame, we have our top tube that is our cutting oxygen. So like you can see here, every torch that has two tubes like this one is going to have a mixer somewhere inside. Okay, so if we happen to bend this torch, we messed up the mixer. Okay, also Victor today is making different types of mixer torches, not only a tube mix. And we're going to see what's the other two that we have. So that's one. Our second mixer we could know is known by Harris torches. Harris torches are real common in our market. Okay, you could tell a Harris torch by looking at the Harris torch. It's got three tubes going from point A to point B. When we get to point B, now we said we need to have a mixer. Where's our mixer? Our mixer becomes right here. Knowing a Harris torch as a head mix torch. A head mix torch, like you can see here, we have the bottom oxygen that's going to be our cutting oxygen. One of our tubes here is going to bring our fuel, and one of the other tubes is going to bring the oxygen to the mixer that's going to mix the two gases, okay, so we could get our neutral flame, making our bottom tube our cutting oxygen. So when you see a torch with three tubes like this, with a knob like here on top, you usually going to have what we call a head mix torch. So it's known by a Harris brand torch. Okay, so we have tube mix, head mix. We have our third torch in our market that you're going to probably see is three tubes. It could be like this, or they could be straight. We have it here on this torch. Okay, three tubes, one on top of the other. So on this torch, we don't see, all we see is gas coming from point A to point B. So we're looking for our mixer. There is no mixer in the head. There is no mixer in the tube. So what do we call this torch? We call this torch a tip mix torch. Okay? What is that saying is all the gases are coming to the tip. And in the tip is where all the transaction of mixing the oxygen, acetylene, or oxygen fuel gas that you're using, and your cutting oxygen is coming right in there. How do we identify these torches? This one is identified. Airco makes a tip mix torch. Smith makes a tip mix torch. So anytime you have any torch that has 3 tubes, no knob on top, it's usually going to be some sort of a tip mix torch. So there you have it. 3 types of torches, but 3 types of mixers. We cannot use a torch without having one type of mixer. How can we tell in our tips? Usually we get a Harry's tip. It's going to be a flat head. You're going to see your cutting oxygen in the center. You're going to see your outside where we mix our gases to get our neutral flame. If you get a Victor style torch, you're going to have your cutting oxygen in the center, and you're going to have your premix around this other compartment. So it's made of 2 compartments. These 2 tips have 2 compartments. When we go to a tip mix torch, we're going to have 3 compartments. We have their center cutting oxygen, and we're going to have our premix departments right here. So it's going to be a 3-step tip. Anytime you see a tip like this, is because your torch is a tip mix torch. When you get, here's a Smith. Smith does the same thing. They have a cutting oxygen, 1 compartment, 2 compartments. So Smith is a tip mix torch. So when we go and we look at torches, now you know anytime you have a torch in your hand, you want to be able to identify what type of torch you have. Thank you. Hopefully this will help you in your knowledge of torches.